The next section I'll be covering is the city of Novigrad. Now, for the most part, there are no glaring flaws with the main quest in Novigrad, especially when compared to Yen not using a fucking wish to find Ciri. My first complaint about Novigrad is how tedious it feels in regards to the main quest. You spend far longer here than you do at Velen and especially Skellige. Let me briefly break it down. In Skellige, you go to a funeral, go to a wake, break into a laboratory, search a forest, travel to an island, locate a corpse, perform necromancy, and then you are done. That is not even a fourth of what you do in Novigrad. And you learn arguably less about Ciri's whereabouts than you do in Skellige. Nearly all of your time here is spent trying to find Dandelion, and when you finally get to meet him, he says he doesn't even know where to find Ciri. On top of all of that, finding Dandelion is a process of going from place to place and getting little to no information. We start off by heading to a town square. We get a scene of stake burning, with what I assume is a witch or a sorceress and some noble who turns out to be a magical creature called a Doppler. After watching them burn, you head over to Triss's house and come across some looters. They tell you that Triss is likely hiding in the Putrid Grove, along with all of the other mages who are suffering persecution under the rule of Radovid the Stern. Before you leave, however, you are questioned by the leader of the Witch Hunters. He tells you that he will take action against you at the slightest misstep, and that Novigrad is no place for the likes of you. After that, we head up to Triss's house and get a wilted rose of remembrance. Just one more reminder of how nothing we did in the second game had any lasting impact. The next thing we have to do is find the Putrid Grove, and this is a sequence I actually like. You can either follow a pickpocket through the city to find the grove, or you can just ask this guy where to find it. The reason I like this is that it makes repeat playthroughs go quicker. Maybe on your first playthrough you just went with what the game showed you, but through experimentation you can find a route that is much faster and get you in for free. The problem is that this is the best, if not the only example I can find of this occurring. There may be more, but either I've forgotten about them or I have yet to find them. Anyway, we get to the grove and find Triss. She has some work to do, so we tag along. We dispel a rat incantation, have a veiled conversation I assume is about our abandoned romance, kill some witch hunters, and then she says she knows someone who might know how to find Ciri.
You know, I've been thinking who might know something about Ciri, and I just got an idea. There's an Oneiromancer in town, Kareen Tilly. Very capable, supposedly.
Never trusted in Dreamer's abilities myself.
Kareen's been very effective. We should at least try. She's taken a job close by. Follow the canal away from the fish market. The house is near the first bridge. Its owner, Dejan Kier, is a rich banker.
Now this is where things begin to get a bit tedious. You go to this lady, do a small quest to get her help, and she gives you a vision of Dandelion arguing with a bird. The bird is supposed to represent Ciri, which means that we have to try and find Dandelion for help in finding Ciri. I have to ask, what is the extent of this dreaming power exactly? Could we perhaps use her again to try and find Dandelion, or maybe to get more information as to Ciri's whereabouts? She doesn't look particularly phased or tired from giving Geralt a vision, so wouldn't it work a second time?
Help.
Good luck, Witcher. I hope you find your Ciri.
Whatever. We go to Dandelion's inn and find Zoltan. He is currently working at removing some squatters from the premises. We help him fight off the rest of them and ask about Dandelion. Zoltan says he doesn't know where he is, so we look around the room for clues that could help us find him. We find a book that lists the names of some women with whom Dandelion had been mingling. Zoltan says that we should ask each of them if they know anything. You know, it would be nice if I could just use the dreaming method to get information, but I guess not. We talk to a washerwoman, a noble's daughter, a transvestite elf, a school teacher, Wait, what? A transvestite elf? That's odd. But come to think of it, I do remember a bearded lady being in the second game. But more so, the reason I find this strange is because I would think it would result in increased bigotry toward this character. They are, after all, an elf, which is already a maligned race, but wouldn't also being a transvestite be doubly dangerous? Or are people in The Witcher okay with it? I'm actually genuinely curious. This elf also tells us that Kalkstein is in town, and that he was recently burned at the stake? What? They fucking killed Kalkstein? For those who don't know, Kalkstein was an alchemist who was essential to the plot of the first game. A smarter and friendlier guy there never was. The fact that they killed him off screen like this pisses me off personally. I would have at least liked to have been there when it happened. In fact, why didn't they replace him with the random noble on the pyre at the beginning of this chapter? It would have gone a long way to making me hate Radovid all the more, and could have been a horrifying character moment for Geralt. Seeing an actual friend being burnt alive instead of some strangers. Fucking nonsense. Another person we have to talk to is the servant of the Lavalettes, who are a family that was important to the story of the second game. This is where one of the small number of carried over choices from the second game comes into play. You meet the Nilfgaardian general from Vizima here, as well as Lady Lavalette. If you killed her son in the second game, she runs back into the house out of fear. If you spared her son, she greets you as a friend. Kind of a shallow difference, really. It doesn't in any way affect the plot of the game. It's just a reaction scene. What is actually interesting about this section, however, is your interaction with General Voris. He treats Geralt as a respected friend, and has only kind words to say. Again, I really like Voris. Anyway, we talk to the servant girl and head back to Zoltan. None of the girls could tell us where Dandelion was, so the whole thing was ostensibly a waste of time. One thing that they did all mention was that Dandelion was particularly taken with some blonde chick. We take this information to Zoltan, but he is currently playing with a pet owl.
Ah, you're back! You met Poppy? Sure to start talking any day now.
That Field Marshal Duda's replacement? The Marshal was a parrot, you do remember, right? Where'd you get her?
At auction. Some mage's estate went under the hammer. Witch hunters and the Eternal Fire joined forces, staked out his place and rounded the sorry sap up, put his things up for sale. Happened to be passing by and saw this out. Came with her own cage.
How could you resist?
Could they? 'Tweren't possible. Ah, but Dandelion's what matters now. So, how'd you do? Learn much?
Women on my list hadn't seen Dandelion in a while. All claimed he had been acting strange. Also mentioned he'd been seeing someone else. Thing is, Mystery Woman wasn't on my list.
What's she supposedly like, this lass?
Blonde, from Kovir. A Troberitz, apparently. Named Kalinetta or something like that.
That makes it clear as crystal. It's Priscilla. Aye. Must be her.
Why wasn't she on the list?
This Priscilla wasn't like the others. I think Dandelion more than fancied her. I think it was fervour.
He lusts after every other woman he meets.
How can I explain? Who does Dandelion love most?
Himself.
Exactly. And she's his mirror image.
What can I say? Could be he finally met his match.
She's his match, all right. Maybe more. The laddie's head's on fire. Lassie's got him whirling.
All right. Guess we gotta talk to her.
So we basically went in a circle with this. Couldn't Zoltan just have mentioned her first? It's not necessarily a plot issue, it's just annoying that Zoltan had this information the whole time and is only just now mentioning it. It's kind of similar to the mission in Skellige, where if we just told Ermion that Ciri was being chased by the Wild Hunt, then he could have told us that they were attacked in Hindersfall and saved us the trouble of nearly destroying the main island. Zoltan says that Priscilla works at a nearby tavern, so we go there and meet her. And this is where we get the best scene in the entire game.
These scars long have yearned for your tender caress, to bind our fortunes. Damn what the stars own. Rend my heart open, then your love profess, a winding, weaving fate to which we both atone. You flee, my dream come the morning. Your scent, berries tart, lilac sweet, to dream of raven locks and twisted, stormy, of violet eyes glistening as you weep. The wolf I will follow into the storm, to find your heart, its passion displaced by our ever-growing, hardening into stone, amidst the cold to hold you in a heated embrace. You flee, my dream come the morning, your scent, berries tart, lilac sweet, to dream of raven locks and twisted, stormy, of violet eyes glistening as you weep. I know not if fate would have us live as one, or if by love's blind chance we've been bound. The wish I whispered when it all began, did it forge a love you might never have found? You flee, my dream come the morning, your scent, berries tart, lilac sweet, to dream of raven locks and twisted, stormy, of violet eyes glistening as you weep.
Magnificent. After the music ends, Priscilla takes us to her room, where she explains that Dandelion attempted a heist of a vault that belonged to a local underworld/crime boss by the name of Siggy Reuven. She also says that Dandelion had a run-in with another crime boss, Horson Jr. We go to Siggy's hideout, and it turns out that he is actually an old acquaintance of Geralt's, a former Redanian spy by the name of Dijkstra. Dijkstra is the only character in this game that actually frightens me a bit. His constant scowl combined with his impeccable information network make him a legitimately intimidating individual. Not to mention that he looks like he could knock out a horse by headbutting it. He tells us that we should search some of Horson Jr.'s local properties if we want to find him. So we run all over the city, kill a bunch of henchmen, and in the end all we really learn is that Jr. has ties to Redanians. Couldn't Dijkstra just have told us this? What I mean is, why not write it in a way so that Dijkstra sends us off with this information in the first place? I just find it tedious to only get tidbits of information that ultimately lead me further down a rabbit hole. We take this information to Dijkstra and he says that our friend from the second game, Vernon Roach, might be able to help us. So we have gone from finding Ciri to finding Dandelion to finding Whoreson Jr. to finding Vernon Roach. I'm starting to feel like a pinball with all this bouncing around. We go to Roach, and depending on your decisions in The Witcher 2, we will have different dialogue. The most significant decision in the second game impacts a small section of dialogue. Couldn't you do something, anything with more depth? Like, change the quest somehow, or maybe make Yorvith the contact. I know you would have to rewrite parts of the story, but a few different lines from Roach is just such a disappointing conclusion to the events of the second game. I would have much preferred that some of the scavenger hunt quests prior to this were replaced with something that gave more significance to our previous actions. Roach tells us that he has a Redanian contact whom he was just about to meet. How convenient. We go to the city of Oxenfurt and are greeted by a number of soldiers. We enter the building and it turns out that King Radovid has decided to replace Roach's contact.
Checkmate. They say it's the game of kings. That chess teaches one to think strategically. What a load of rubbish. Both sides have identical pieces. The rules stay invariably the same. How does this mirror real life? Witcher, do you know why I play chess?
None of these options will be the right answer, so just pick no idea.
I have no idea. I play chess to reveal the game's secret. Blood thumps inside these chessmen. You need only listen, and you will hear. Dub-dub, dub-dub, dub-dub. A heart pumping with life. I take a pawn, and I hear flesh being rent. I win a piece, and I hear screams from the depths of its bowels. I want to break the chessmen open. Squeeze the truth from them. You see what I mean?
No, I don't.
You do not because you are not a king. Pawns see only their comrades at their sides and their foes across the field. The king has a different view of the chessboard. His greatest foes surround him. His own chessmen might trap him. And that is check. And death. You see, Witcher, chess is the art of sacrificing your own pieces. Now do you see?
I think I do now.
Unimportant. Let us speak.
If it was unimportant, then why did you waste my time with it? What I gathered from the scene is that Radovid fears assassination and that it is his duty as king to sacrifice his men if necessary.
Why have you brought the Witcher here?
I think he'd best explain. Expected a Redanian spy. Had no idea we'd be meeting a king.
When you've an opportunity to omit intermediaries, I'd suggest you avail yourself of it.
But why did you decide to do it at this specific time? At this location? You couldn't have known that I would be here, so you must have some business with Roach, right?
I have placed Junior in a mansion in Oxenfurt. Very few know this.
They'll not let you in unannounced. Thus, you must tell them you've come about the new whores.
Junior constantly requests fresh women. I hear he doesn't treat them well.
You just give me a man after investing coin and time in him? Can't help but wonder why.
Consider it a gesture of goodwill. Almost. I'll expect you to return the favor.
And also, Junior has lost his purpose. The Big Four is no more.
I shall contact you to collect in due course. Now go. And you, Roach. We must speak another time.
So he did intend to speak with Roach, and it's just a really big coincidence that Geralt decided to tag along this one time? Okay. Let's talk about Radovid for a minute. His character really bothers me in both this game and kind of in the second. The reason for this is that in the first game, he was far more cunning and charming. And just to be clear, I'm not saying that he could not change, I'm saying that he's become less interesting. In the first game, he is chipper, shrewd, and rational. In his scenes with both Foltest and Geralt, you can see that he knows how to carry on a normal conversation, instead of talking in chess metaphors. If the Radovid from the first game was present here, I could be swayed by his charisma alone. This Radovid, however, is not even remotely likable. I have more to say on this, but for now I should just move on with the story. Next we go to Whoreson's house. We kill all of his guards and confront him.
What the sandwich fuck is this? No! Fuck me! Help me for fuck's sake!
No one's coming.
Stop! What? What do you want?
Hello, Junior. Been looking for you a while now. I've come to kill you.
I'll give you all I got.
Got a few questions to start with.
I'll tell you everything.
I'm looking for a young woman and a minstrel. I know you've met them.
Bird? What fucking...
Ashen-haired with a sword on her back, just like me.
Yeah. That was... I remember.
Pay attention now. You'll tell the truth. Want to know why?
I won't lie. Honest.
Took me a long time to find you. Wasn't an easy road to travel. I'm angry and tired. Had to kill a lot of people along the way. Some of them tried to cheat me. Some tried to lie. I didn't like it one bit. I feel like one more lie'd be the last bitter drop in a chalice full of sorrow. And then I'd do something I would later regret. Now you know why you can't lie to me?
Yes.
Good. I'd like to know how the ashen-haired woman ended up meeting you, and what happened to her.
What happened to her? She attacked me!
Lie one more time, and I'll cut your balls off.
we'd made a deal. I was to repair their magic villa, that girl and the songster were to bring me Siggy Reuven's treasure. They didn't, so I might have flown off the handle a bit, I admit.
What did you do?
I nabbed their flunky, Dodo, and waited for them to come for him. Look, this. Here's what they wanted fixed.
A phylactery? You can fix something like this?
Not me. I know a guy.
Wasting my time, Junior. I need details.
I'll tell you all. Just the way it happened.
Got a bad feeling about this.
Calm down, Dandelion. You can't leave Dudu in Horson Jr.'s hands, you know that.
I know, but my gut can't be reasoned with, and no amount of sympathy I feel can silence it, blot it out.
Get a grip, Dandelion. We must focus on the task at hand.
I'm just saying.
Well, then be silent. Have you learned where Horson is keeping Dudu?
Room on the top floor. One with the balcony.
I'll need to cross onto the roof. Wait for me in front of Junior's house. And I know it's difficult, but do try to look inconspicuous.
If they hurt you, Horson will pay.
So, did you catch all that? I'll quickly reverberate just in case. Ciri hired Horson to fix her magic box. He agreed in exchange for Dijkstra's treasure. Ciri attempted the theft, but failed to deliver to Horson. So Horson kidnapped Ciri's friend Dudu. I know it's probably a translation thing, but did you have to name a character Dudu? Couldn't the translators just change the pronunciation to Dodu or Dido or virtually anything else? It's not even entirely about the connotation, just the name sounds really fucking stupid. Anyway, we rescue Poo Poo and Ciri runs out the front door. After all that, we are given the option to kill Horson. Well, we were sent here by the highest law of the land, and murder is possibly the least of his crimes, so...
Let me tell you where things stand. I'm looking for this woman, 'cause she's like a daughter to me. And that's why I just can't let this go.
No.
After all that, we are taken to see Radovid, and the guards inform you that you will need to leave your weapons behind. Funny, I don't recall that happening at the chess club. Radovid says that he wants you to hunt down Priscilla Eilhart and bring her to him. Priscilla is one of the antagonists from the second game. She is complicit in regicide, has a lust for power, and she tried to kill me with a fucking dragon. I don't like Radovid in this game, but Philippa is partially responsible for the death of Foltest and subsequently the Nilfgaardian invasion. One could also argue that she is part of the reason that Radovid is currently persecuting mages. I would happily bring her to justice, but she's not home. Moving along, we go back to Dijkstra and ask about Dandelion. He says that he doesn't know where my gigolo boyfriend is, but if I help him find his treasure, he will ask around town. We look around his vault and find clues that lead us to a house in town. At the house, we find out that Menga has seized the treasure and captured Dandelion. We let Dijkstra know, and he pairs us with Triss to somehow get the location of the treasure from Menga. Triss decides that the best option would be to pretend that she was my prisoner, so that Menga would let us into his fortress for a conversation.
Glad you're here. Listen, took a look at the building and it does not look good.
Mean it could use a bit of paint and spackle?
I mean, it's a damn fortress. High walls, guards at the gate, armed men everywhere. We could never sneak in, and fighting our way in won't work. Menga would have had plenty of time to escape.
What do you suggest?
Take these shackles. Put them on me.
Mind explaining what this is all about?
Think. Bring the hunters the vile Triss Marigold. They won't just open the gate for you. They're likely to let you present her to Menga personally.
No way. Too risky.
Dandelion's life's on the line. Series 2. No such thing as too risky.
Bullshit. There is always such a thing as too risky. But at the same time, I actually do like her plan. They won't kill her right away because we know that they like their public executions. And witchers are known for hunting things for coin, so there's a good chance that they would accept it. The main problem, however, is that they don't have an exit strategy. Triss says that Menga is in a fortress, so that would mean that it is very difficult to get in and out. So unless she literally plans to sacrifice her life, she is going to have to do more reconnaissance.
Still got a bad feeling about this, but tough. Let's go.
Or I guess we could just wing it. We get inside the fort and are greeted by the guards. They take us up to Menga's office and we hand Triss over to the torturer. Now, you are given the option to use Axi-Hex on him to keep him from hurting Triss. But if you do, they will notice and attack you. So don't do that. We get in to see Menga, and my mind immediately goes back to Axi-Hex. Menga sends his guard to the torture room, leaving just the two of us to talk. So no one would notice if I were to hex him and get the information, right? But nah, the game says that we gotta do it the old-fashioned way. If you ask about the treasure first, then Menga will tell you where it is, but also that you won't get it. If you then ask about Dandelion, Menga will attack you and you will be forced to kill him. If you ask about Dandelion first and never mention the treasure, Menga will tell you where he is, and then Triss will end up killing him in a rage. The problem that I have here is that Menga is little more than a plot device in the story. We barely learn anything about him, and by the time he becomes relevant, he's killed. Again, I feel like he's a wasted opportunity. Allow me to try and explain why. In the second Witcher game, there is a character by the name of Bernard Laredo. Laredo is the commander of a secluded river village called Flotsam. He provides you with key information that helps you complete your main goal in finding the Kingslayer, and at the same time conveys his goal of maintaining control over his post. This is made evident by his actions and his words. He understands that you are a possible threat to his control, but he also recognizes your value as well. The reason that I mention all of this is that Laredo and Menga share a similar position of authority, but one is clearly a more relevant and detailed character than the other. There are several exchanges with Laredo that reveal his motivations and also details around his mansion that solidify his character. Menga, on the other hand, has very little that gives him the same level of depth. He tells us that if we break the law even a little, he won't hesitate to track us down. The problem is, we literally kill some of his witch hunters and nothing happens. We attack guards and all they do is take our coin. We conspire with the criminal underworld, raiding and killing at different locations, and nothing happens. Either Menga has the worst information network in the world, or he actually does not care. Going back to the part about the witch hunters, Menga should know that his men went to capture Triss, or at the very least, look for and find their bodies, covered in burn marks and sword wounds. He already knows about Triss and Geralt's former relationship. Put it all together, and it's nearly obvious that the Witcher worked with a sorceress to kill some of his men. Would you like to know what happens if you kill some of Laredo's men?
Corporal, sir, it's the Witcher. Why, he's the one slew the river beast.
What's true cannot be denied.
Now listen here, whatever your witcher's name is. Justice must be done, but on account of services you've rendered unto society, I'll show lenience. Pay a fine, right here, right now, to be used to equip my watchmen with new clubs, or die. That's the offer.
Nothing doing.
Kill the bastard!
Remember what I said about the details of Laredo's mansion? Well, some of those things include a ballast stay that will stop ships from leaving without Laredo's permission. and a watchtower to oversee the whole village. This is because he wants to maintain control. It is arguably his defining trait. Menga, on the other hand, what we know about Menga is that he apparently worships the eternal fire, views the magically inclined as inevitable lawbreakers, and is likely a materialist according to the intel gathered by Triss. The problem with all of this is that none of it is consistent. We never see him engaged in any kind of worship of the internal fire, nor does his office contain any shrines. Geralt is supposedly being closely watched in anticipation of him breaking the law, but nothing ever comes of it. And there is nothing in Menga's office to suggest that he is any more of a materialist than anyone else in Novigrad. It would have been far more interesting if Menga were a true fanatic, constantly hounding Geralt with witch hunters, interfering with his investigating, and acting as if he truly was a servant of the internal fire, expending all of his energy toward hunting witches and seeing that they truly were brought to justice, for the glory of the eternal fire. But instead, we have about 2 scenes of just a regular guard captain who doesn't like witches. And now that he's dead, we are about an inch or 2 closer to finding Ciri. We kill everyone in the damned fortress, with the high walls, and the guards at the gate, and the armed men everywhere, and then we search Menga's office. We find a letter that details how to contact a spy. We also find a key to Dijkstra's treasure. We take the key to him, while Triss burns the fort down, because raging fires in city walls stay isolated, you see. Dijkstra isn't happy that we never told him that Dandelion stole the treasure, but fortunately he's happier that we found his treasure. He tells us where to meet the spy that was mentioned in Menga's letter, and we go off to see him. Triss shows up as well, and we both wait for the spy to appear. He comes inside and starts acting all defiant and stuff, so Triss starts torturing his nutsack. What the fuck? Why can't Geralt just use Axihex? It would save us time, and this poor bastard's balls would be free to hang. Whatever. We get the information, and then you can let Triss kill him or wipe his memory. Because murdering some dude that we know nothing about makes us the good guys somehow.
But I helped you! I helped!
It's not so bad, I promise.
Peacefully engaged.
How do you feel?
Base. Cruel. Vile.
Oh no, she's turning into Yennefer.
Said you had an idea about freeing Dandelion.
Yes. We know he's on the island, and he'll stay there until Menga orders him transferred to Oxenford, right?
Mm-hmm. Problem is, Menga's dead. So...
Well, why don't we just break into the prison? It somehow worked out great when we broke into that damned fortress, with the high walls, and the guards at the gate, and the armed men everywhere. The prison can't be too much worse.
No one else knows that. He could have escaped the fire. He could reappear. Him or someone very, very similar.
A Doppler?
Mm-hmm. Your old friend Dudu Biberveld impersonated the halfling merchant. Dandelion claimed he seemed more real than the original. So much so, Vivaldi gave him a loan of several thousand crowns without batting an eye.
Yeah, except Dudu's in hiding right now. Priscilla might know something, though.
Fingers crossed. Listen, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about. But not here, and definitely not now. Come by later when you have a moment? I'd appreciate it. All right. We need to get out of here.
So now we have to go and find Poopy so we can find Dandelion, and then find Ciri. We go to Priscilla for advice, and she says that Dudu enjoys plays that were put on by a troupe consisting of friends of his. And Geralt suggests writing a play that would lure Dudu out of hiding. We write the whole thing, present it to the Madame of the troupe, put on the play, and find Dudu. This is a lot of tedious busy work in my opinion, but it gets the job done. So now that we have Dudu, we can finally rescue my gigolo boyfriend. We fill him in on the plan, but he's not so sure. Zoltan tries to convince him.
Our best axe, no one will pester the commander of the Temple Guard. Besides, you're a Doppler and an actor and a Doppler. Got double the spark to improvise your way out of any situation. If things get spicy, you'll just nip round the corner and transform into a buxom wench, a jackdaw, or whatever else strikes your fancy.
So I've been thinking about this. What exactly are the limits of a Doppler's powers? They can transform into animals and people, but what about inanimate objects? Is there a size limit? Like, could a Doppler transform into a whale? They can transform into birds according to Zoltan, so is it any animal? What about insects? The reason I ask all of these questions is because being able to transform into even small animals makes Dopplers incredibly powerful. If one of them wanted to assassinate a king, Radovid for example, all they would have to do is fly over to his boat as a bird, transform into a dog or something, and then bite his jugular. Or maybe they could transform into a mouse and then sneak into his room while he sleeps. To make matters worse, Dopplers are not in short supply if manga is to be believed.
Speaking of metal, this goblet's silver. Making sure I'm not a Doppler.
Ah, it's immediately apparent. A professional. I find that refreshing. But to answer your question, one can never be too careful. You'd be surprised how many come here turn to rancid jelly as soon as they grip the goblet.
To make things worse even further, there is a side quest where Geralt hunts down a Doppler. When he finds it, not only does the Doppler mimic Geralt's appearance, but his abilities as well. Here, the Doppler is effectively using Gwen's shield. It actually deflects your blows. Does this mean that Dopplers can emulate magical abilities of those they copy? If they were to copy Ciri, could they use her teleportation ability? I am clearly putting more thought into this than any of the writers ever did. But that does not change the fact that it still exists in the game. They should have completely removed Dopplers from the game and had Dandelion be rescued some other way, because this messes up so much about the world and the story. We convince Dudu to do the thing, and we lie in wait for the convoy to bring Dandelion. They show up and we attack, but it turns out that one of the guards is running away with Dandelion, so we have to ride after them. We make it to the house that the guard has commandeered, sneak in through a back entrance, and kill the guard. We are now free to officially rescue Dandelion. You know, the first thing that comes to my mind is that his clothes look incredibly well maintained for someone who has been in prison for... how long was he in prison?
Priscilla! What are you doing here?
You alright? You had me worried sick.
Dandelion, you rascal! Got this lass to thank for his racing after yous. She chivied and chivied.
Shame you arrived too late to see us hoodwink that hunter. I had a plan all set, but then Geralt!
Dandelion, I need to ask you something. It's important, so focus. Where's Ciri?
Ciri? I thought, seeing how you're here, you haven't seen her? Well, I don't know where she is.
I know you tried to help her. Gotta say, I'm having trouble understanding why you went to Horson Jr. of all people.
No one else came to mind. Maybe, given more time, I'd have done things differently, but Ciri said the Wild Hunt was on her tail. Horson seemed pretty harmless by comparison.
Something went wrong.
So you've heard everything. I hope you're not mad. You can't be. My plan was perfect. Until we put it in motion. How was I supposed to know Manga was after Dudu?
Heard enough about your plan. Need to know what happened to Ciri now. When'd you last see her?
We were on Temple Isle, running from Horson's men.
So Ciri and Dandelion are running toward the temple on Temple Island, but Ciri becomes wounded and is forced to teleport, while Dandelion is captured. Where were they planning to go exactly? The Temple Isle is exactly that, an island, elevated several hundred feet above the sea, no less. Were they planning on seeking sanctuary or something? Because it sure didn't look like it. It just seems weird that they would run through several of Horson's men to what should be known as a definitive dead end. Anyway, Dandelion mentions that Ciri had plans to reverse some sort of curse. She went to Horace Jr. to get her box repaired, but she also had an incantation she needed to use. Fortunately, Dandelion managed to memorize the incantation himself, as Ciri would constantly repeat it to herself. I would question how Dandelion managed to memorize an incantation in a different language, but I can easily believe that a minstrel poet has knowledge of other languages, so I'ma let this go. So this is the end of the main story in Novigrad, but there is one more thing to do. Triss mentioned that she needed some help with something, so we are going to pay her a visit. Turns out she wants our help to get the local sorcerers out of Novigrad. And I'm honestly wondering why they don't just teleport away. But we'll move past that for now. We have to go to a party at the Vegelbund estate. And here we'll meet one of the hosts who will provide details on how to proceed.
Just masks, right? Probably don't need to wear a doublet, do I?
A doublet, Geralt. And it's not up for discussion. Take care of that, then come and see me.
Why are the women in this game always trying to play dress up with me? Anyway, we go to the party and come across an old friend of Triss.
What are you doing here?
Little Miss Marigold. Well, well. And I was led to believe this would be an elegant affair.
Yes, I missed you too. But can we put that aside for now? Do you have a way out of Novigrad? You can join us if you want.
Join you? And just who would I join?
Your friends, among others. Once we've all gathered, I'll lead you.
You will lead. Forgive me, Marigold, but that is like allowing myself to be led by a lame duck. Farewell.
Didn't like that guy. Why'd you insist on talking to him?
He's an old friend.
Bit of a sourpuss if you ask me. We also run into General Voris again.
Moments ago... Oh, apologies. I mistook you for my friend, sir. He wears a similar mask.
General Voris.
Geralt of Rivia. So, I was not entirely mistaken.
Pleasure, as always. This is...
A beautiful and mysterious lady. Let us leave the formalities to the event's end, when all will remove their masks. More fun that way, wouldn't you agree?
I would, sir.
And now I must beg your pardon. I really must find Durgoth, and quickly. A lovely evening to you both.
This guy is such an incredible gentleman and a badass. I honestly wish that there was more of him in this game. Anyway, we talk with the Vegelbunds and they tell us to meet in the Hedge Mage after a time. We sit down with Triss and take some time to flirt.
Great view from here, and there's even wine. It's been so long since I've been to a feast, ball, or reception. Amazingly pleasant change from the sewers of Novigrad.
So, does this mean it's a good time to ask you about...
Yes?
About that mage we met earlier?
Oh, Maritz. What do you want to know?
How'd you meet?
Geralt, all mages know each other. Some are well over a century old. That's plenty of time to make acquaintances.
In that case, when did you meet him?
At a feast, long ago. He walked up and just blatantly offered to teleport us somewhere quieter.
So he can teleport two people at once? Do most sorcerers have that ability? Because if they do, I can think of a pretty good way to get the sorcerers out of Novigrad. We go play in the maze for a minute and Triss ends up in our arms. I could kiss her, but she is kind of drunk, and I wouldn't want Geralt to get slapped with a Title IX. We go to the stables, and Triss is preparing to ride off with her new friend. I see. It's because he's rich, right?
So where are we gonna get away to?
You? Nowhere. It's finally possible, probable even, that we can get all the mages out of Novigrad.
And once again, I must bring up teleportation. How many of the mages possess the ability to teleport others, as well as themselves? Perhaps one could argue that it would take a large amount of energy. Even so, with only a couple of mages teleporting once a day, or once a week even, you should be able to have all of them out of the city rather quickly.
want to say goodbye.
Goodbye.
What happened at the fountain? It was my fault, I know. The wine went straight to my head. I'm sorry.
Oh, I knew it! She's already having regrets. They ride off together and we go say goodbye to Triss. However, it turns out that she needs our help again. We do some rescue work and then go and join the mages. Turns out there are roughly 24 mages down here. Anyone up for teleportation? No? Alright. We go on ahead and clear the path, and eventually make it to the ship.
Finally. You bloody took long enough.
Did you have time to look around? How's the ship?
Creaky piece of junk. Wood's rotting, sails are prone to rip like an old pair of knickers, and
Will we make it to Kavir?
provided you don't run into any storms.
Oh, for fuck's sake, teleport the bastards already! Get everyone on board and say one final goodbye to Triss. If you ask her to stay and say I love you, you get to romance Triss. And now I need to talk about the romance in this game. The only options for a long-term romance are Yennefer and Triss. I have already somewhat gone over why Yennefer is a bad option for virtually everyone, but what about Triss? In the first game, Triss was one of the 2 relationship options, the other being Shani. I very much prefer Shani as Triss was somewhat overbearing and a bit untrustworthy. However, no matter whom you decide is the better companion, the second game will always have you naked in a bed with Triss. In the second game, Triss is more of a main character. She is your only real romance option, and she has more of an impact on the plot than in the first game. I feel like she shines the brightest here, but similar to the first game, even if you decide to pursue her, the third game will make it so that you are back to being little more than friends. To make things even worse, Triss does not even seem interested in a relationship in the third game. It almost feels as though she is actively trying to get away from Geralt. She is also more of a side character than she had ever been previously. Only one mission with her has any impact on the plot, and it's a miracle that we even survived that damn fortress. With the high walls and the guards at the gate. She is just not all that interesting in this game. If you were to take her out, it would change very little about the story. Combining that with her constant attempts to get away from Geralt, and the fact that no matter how hard you romanced her prior to this, you will still be back at square one, I can safely say that Triss is not really worth it. I believe that whoever wrote the romance options in this game wanted Geralt to end up with Yennefer. Because even though she treats Geralt like shit, she is at the very least interested in having a relationship. I don't have any proof of this outside of what happens in the game, but it helps to explain why players would choose Yennefer over Triss, although I find myself disinterested in both of them. So you might think that we're done in Novigrad, but there is one more thing to do. Plot an assassination. Dijkstra says that Radovid is crap, and he has to go. If we were talking about Radovid from the first game, I would have to consider my decision. Maybe think about the good Radovid has done in spite of the bad. But in reality, Radovid is just a grumpy lunatic. We go to meet Dijkstra, and it turns out that Roach is in on the plot as well. They need my help to find their last member, who is in a cave somewhere. We track down their lost conspirator to a troll cave, and lo and behold, it's Taller. We send him back to Roach and Dijkstra, and then put this quest aside until later. And now we are done with the Novigrad section of the story. My biggest complaint with this section was just the tedium of it. It felt like I was constantly following divergent breadcrumbs, and I barely have anything to show for it. There were some problems with the story elements as well, the Oneiromancer being a one-off, the Dopplers being overpowered as hell, and Geralt always forgetting to use Axii Hex. I can personally overlook all of these things because they are just a small part of the story, but they are still an issue. For now, however, let's go to Velen.